Repairing cars can be super dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
So today we're breaking down sketchy TikTok repairs.
I'm Angelina, that's Sandro, we're real mechanics. First clip. Yay.
You just watch it burn. Why not?
Look at that.
They brought out the camera.
That's a new meaning to hot wire. What we have is a short, is what's happening.
I see it a lot. If it's a cheap jumper cables, sometimes they burn.
If that insulation starts to become compromised, you can get the two positive and negatives that short together. And the problem is, you know, when nobody attempts to jump in and try to remove that, you're gonna damage both batteries. I mean, worst comes to worst, they could have a battery explode. People are always concerned that batteries have this huge thing on them that'll say this battery contains lead, but that battery also contains acid. Batteries do a thing when they're charging rapidly or discharging rapidly called gassing, where they'll get hydrogen gas that kind of hovers over the top of the battery. And if a spark occurs, well, we've all seen with the Hindenburg blimp what happens when we mix ignition with hydrogen. And it's an actual explosion that will peel the hood clear back off of a vehicle in some cases. And then we have acid flying everywhere. So, I mean, that's like worst case scenario, but an acid party. Different kind of acid party.
If you smell something bad after you jumped it too, that's also an indication that the battery's about to give out or it's gone. And it could explode on you. So it's like, be very precautious when you're opening your hood if it smells like egg. I think you could go to a local spot and they could check it out. If they smell egg, switch it out.
Let's take a look at that next clip.
Oh!
He does not have eyebrows anymore.
That looks cool. Like Ryu, like, oh.
He is keeping that engine running with a starting fluid. A lot of times with vehicles, if you're trying to figure out if it's a spark issue or it's a fuel issue, pop off the air filter or air ducting where the throttle body is, and you will spray something combustible, starting fluid, carb clean, brake clean, while somebody is in there trying to keep the engine alive. And if the engine does start and continues to run, well, you know it's a fuel issue. If it doesn't, then maybe it's a spark issue or something else. But as long as you don't do that with a diesel, that is not a smart thing to do with a diesel. You will do damage, massive damage. Don't do that. Only gasoline vehicles you can do that. What happened is it had a backfire through the intake. And since he is spraying a combustible fluid, that, well, combusted back in his face.
I think he's probably slanging it. His boy's inside with the throttle cable, just stepping on it. This was pumping it, he shot too much. Just a little bit, my dude, just a little dab, like dab. That motor will stay on, just little baby dabs.
Baby dabs.
Baby dabs. Wait, baby dab. Just be safety, wear some glasses, but I mean, or a full body suit, or a shield.
Hazmat suit.
Anything just to protect your face.
I will admit, I've never really used any safety gear while doing this myself. But I only do baby dabs, so.
Oh, baby dabs,
Baby
huh? Baby dabs.
Let's start that next clip. What's we
have a bad pulley.
We got some alignment issues going on here. Whoa, pulley missing. Oh,
missing.
I know exactly what happened. This happened to me. I got a belt squeal. The squeal got this real loud ee, and then it just went quiet, like went away. And I knew exactly at that moment what happened. I knew I lost the pulley. One way you can tell a belt squeal from a bearing squeal is by using some sort of belt dressing or deodorant to put underneath the belt as it's running. And if it quiets, you know it's a belt or tension issue. If it doesn't, then you know it is potentially a bearing from one of the pulleys issue. But that's very common. If you let a bearing and one of the pulleys go bad for too long, that bearing will shear off that entire pulley, which is exactly what happened. It'd be like a 10-minute repair right there too.
Yeah, but it's common. A lot of mechanics won't work on their own cars. A baker doesn't want to go home and bake a cake. They'd rather go buy a cake. But there's some cars that everything's separate. Your AC is separate, your power steering belt is separate, your water pump and all the rest of the stuff is separate. So then you could get away with it. Like, let's just say you got to go somewhere. Yeah, your power steering gives out you can still drive back to your house or to your local mechanic.
Yeah.
But if it's like something like this, you can't because it's all one whole unit.
But that serpentine is going to drive your alternator, which is going to charge the battery or keep the battery charged. It's also running all of the electronics inside of the vehicle. So if you lose your water pump is also being driven a lot of times off of the serpentine. So the water pump, if that's not driven for a period of time, or your alternator, you could at worst blow a head gasket, warp the heads, and it can do some serious internal engine damage if it overheats for a long period of time, or leave you stranded. When the alternator stops running, you're now starting a clock on your battery. Once that's out, you're out and the car will die and you'll be stranded wherever you're at.
If your battery light's on, your temperature on your gauge is going up, and the steering is like shit, you're call a tow truck.
Next clip.
I like the beard.
That's very
I wish I could grow a beard. Oh,
whoa.
that's dumb, but I've done that. I was doing it actually to loosen up the gun because it was so stiff, and then I hit it and that shot up, and I was like, why was I even holding it? The am I doing it? I'm like, oh,
Like you're gonna be stronger than the impact.
I was trying to turn it. Have you ever opened one of those guns?
I haven't.
There's a bunch of little holes, like a little valve like this, with a bunch of holes that shoots it in there. I was loosening it up and I was like, oh, it's pretty tight. So I'm like, I put more oil, let me clean it. So then it was still stuck, but it's because I sandwiched it wrong. I put it wrong in the bearing, I didn't even put it on, so it was like touching. And I was jimming it the whole time, and then it shot out, went boom. And I was like, oh, same thing that happened to him, except I didn't hit nothing because it went into the air. And then watching it right now, I'm like, I'm done. That would have slapped me in the face. You usually could open those and repair them. They charge you so much. Snap-on charges you a lot of money to do that, but it's not that crazy. It's just like, it's one gasket in the middle and a bunch of little seals.
Yeah,
so that's it.
I've only had mine warranted, so yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that luxury. We repair those ourselves.
We forget sometimes how strong certain tools that we use are in our brains, thinking that you're stronger than the impact.
He looks pretty strong though.
He does look like a strong guy.
Like Paul Bunyan. Be careful with air tools or any tools.
Power tools are only as dangerous as the person using them. Be careful when you're using power tools. Let's go to that next clip. Oh God.
Oh, nice.
No. I never recommend anybody do that.
So you usually use a spring compressor, right?
The right way to do that would be to use a spring compressor. If you're at home, you can go rent one from AutoZone. They clamp on the spring and then you use a bolt that will pull the two clamp arms together. Even if you think you're gonna avoid a fail and you think you've got it, oh, it's gonna shoot off over there. Springs on a strut have an incredible amount of stored force. You could really, really hurt yourself or anybody else that's nearby or damage something. I don't ever recommend doing this.
As a business owner, if you hit that Lincoln right there,
Right.
I mean, say that bolt just taps the door, that owner's gonna be f***ing pissed.
The right way to do this would be with proper tools. So don't do sketchy stuff like that, kids. Oh!
That's happening.
Damn. I don't do a lot of buffing, but I've dabbled. That is not the way you would go in entering with a buffer like that, though,
Yeah,
right?
you're right, but you see, he caught the top. That's
Right.
what f***ed it up.
Oh, I see there too. Yeah.
When you're using things like that, I have a leather vest that I cover myself, even when I'm welding. Whoever does machining or any type of RPMs like that, you gotta make sure that you don't have nothing that's flapping around.
Yeah.
Let's just say if you have long hair,
Yeah.
and your hair is hanging right here, you're looking like Slash, you think you're the best, right? That buffing wheel would just grab it and rip your hair off, and you'll be bald from that one spot for a cool minute or forever, I don't know.
Happened to me.
When you're working with tools like that,
Yeah,
you
any
have
tools
to-
that spin or
you have to
machines.
learn, you have to learn your angles.
All right, let's buff into that next clip. Okay, so we got a high pressure power steering line that is Mickey Mouse clamped. You don't want to do that.
That's trash.
Yeah.
Welded
Surge tank
rod.
bracket welded to the chassis.
Welded rods onto
that's,
it.
That right there, way too much piston and wall clearance,
Yeah.
freshly rebuilt. Yeah.
YouTube bracket.
So the intercooler is not actually being held on by the bracket, only
Levitated.
probably by the fitting on the tubes.
Levitating like Chris Angel right there, like magic.
Let's back up to that oil drain for the turbo because
That's
that
just
is
up.
nuts. Okay, turbos get oiled through the engine's oiling system, especially the aftermarket turbos, and usually you'll have some sort of drain coming from that turbo routed through to the oil pan, and they've got like a connects Lego set version of this with some hose clamps.
That whole thing is gross. Somebody give me a bucket. I understand like this Jimmy together, but that's Jimmy's brother. that don't fly. That's when you don't go back.
Right.
Just have him fix it, and now you know that you can't that mechanic.
Right.
That's it. Like that's not your mechanic. Because if he couldn't do a simple job like that, then he's really not gonna do something bigger.
Because you're putting a lot of trust in somebody, especially if you're not a mechanic or a specialist yourself. You're trusting that they know what they're doing and they're being honest with you.
Once you find a good mechanic, stick to him, even if he charges a lot.
You figure it is a skilled trade, so don't go for the cheapest work, go for the fairest work. What's a fair price to pay somebody for their skill and their time?
And it depends, because you're talking about an RB26. You're not gonna get a lot of mechanics to work on those.
Yeah, it's kind of a specialty deal.
Yeah, that's really hard. So you're gonna pay top dollar. If not, you're gonna get that. Oh, that's
Oh,
fun.
look at that. It's like a makeshift slide hammer. That works in both directions.
What the
What are they doing?
They invented a good ass tool.
No.
Whatever the it is, I give it to them.
I think it's a ratchet strap maybe, or some sort of strap.
He has that flow though, look at that.
I know. It's almost like at the gym when they're doing battle ropes. The difference between port fuel injection and direct injection. Port fuel injection, I have a fuel injector that is injecting fuel above the intake valve. Those don't see as much heat because they're usually mounted inside the intake manifold, which doesn't get near as hot as, let's say, like the actual cylinder head. On direct injected engines, the fuel injector is literally right next to the spark plug, and so the heat of that cylinder head is soaking into that injector, and injectors don't get changed out as often as, let's say, spark plugs do, and so over time you start to get melding of the metal, so to speak, and there is a taper in there that you would have to break. But I'm gonna go ahead and toss out a guess that this is not the first thing that they tried to do to get this injector out. They've probably gone through multiple steps to try to break this taper and have not found success. And so what they're doing is they're pounding down on the injector and pounding up to just simply break that joining of the components that's happened. Yeah, through rust, corrosion. The slamming up and down of the hammers next to homie's face there is probably the most dangerous part of this, or the most sketchy part of this. But I do admire the creativity.
So check out the next clip.
Oh no. No, 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 no.
The skills.
No! No, I am gonna point out a really annoying thing right now. He put the fan on without any shroud. A fan shroud is essentially a funnel for the fan and the radiator. The fan doesn't blow air on the engine to cool it down. The fan draws air through the radiator to cool down the coolant. Well, if you don't have a funnel to make sure that the air is being drawn through the radiator, the fan will actually draw air around the radiator, and you can get a lot of overheating issues, which I've seen a lot. He's just flexing.
He was just flexing. He's trying to show his nephew or his lady. Check it out, babe.
Look at this.
Look what I can do. That. Nice. I'm saying, don't get me wrong, there's old cats that have fingers like rocks. They could probably lose a limb and they grow it back. I don't know how.
Those are the same guys that'll say oh, you know how you check a fan clutch? You just put your hand in and see if it stops.
Yeah.
But what if it's good? What if it's good?
What if the fan is bueno?
It is not hard to install a fan the non-sketchy way.
It's pretty easy, man.
He's just flexing.
You're just doing that for fun. I mean, you just get there, put the right tool in there, have everything off.
And put your fan shroud on.
Yeah, put your fan shroud on. If there's no point of not having it on. If you're still searching for a mechanic, a real mechanic stuff, keep watching. We haven't found them yet.
Is he trying to...
Started it? Yeah, he started it.
He's just shorting the starter?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a man right there.
It was a little extra. You could do that with a screwdriver too.
You know you want to do it for the boys.
For the boys. What he's doing to the starter is he is jump starting the B+ terminal and the M terminal to start the starter. The way a normal starter is activated is you have S wire, which is your solenoid wire. When you turn your ignition switch or push button, voltage is going to get sent down to the S wire. The S wire is going to activate starter solenoid, which is essentially a plunger that comes forward and will, you have a B+ terminal that has a big fat starter cable coming from the battery B+ terminal, and then you've got your M terminal, which is going to the actual motor. So when the solenoid is engaged, it is connecting the battery to the M terminal to start the starter, and then it grounds through the case. So to activate a starter, all you need to do is essentially take something metal, screwdriver, or this piece of metal he's got going on here, and he's shorting those two terminals.
You're the best teacher in the world.
Aw.
Now time to show the cavemen. Metal, power, start. Saw the motor. We're ready to go.
I like how he's got like this geyser of oil that's like right next to his head, but he's just nonchalantly.
Yeah, he's just chilling. He's just chilling like, oh look, it's shooting oil.
Yeah,
it's good.
no big deal.
If you're a mechanic, this is not even sketchy because there's different ways to start motors. That's one of them. That's what they do when they're doing it outside. It's like you have a battery connected and then they do a crank with the key so it starts, or this guy has a battery connected and he just pop it with a screwdriver and
yeah, I don't feel like there's any actual danger here as long as, you know, he's out of the way of spinny components.
He doesn't have loose shirt, long hair, beard. My boy's good.
If you want to see even more botched repairs and learn how to do things the right way, click here. Sandro, do you have any fatherly advice for the audience?
Actually, I do. So you guys saw, we found our mechanic. So if you guys live or work next to this guy, this is your guy right here. That's your mechanic.
I'm Angelina.
I'm Sandro.
And this has been Real
Mechanic
Stuff.